This is White Plains Week, the weekly news roundup. With your moderator, John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And Peter Katz, noted broadcaster and journalist. White Plains Week, what's happened, who are the newsmakers, and what's in store for the future. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented Fridays at 7:30 and again on Mondays at 7 p.m. here on Channel 76. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. and Ms. White Plains and Westchester, and all you trick-or-treaters out there. We know who you are. Yours truly, John Bailey, your Citizen Net reporter the last 15 years, with Jim Benerofe, my co-founder of White Plains Week, on my left, in our 15th year on White Plains Television. Peter Katz, the anchor for all season, is on assignment. Before we get to the silver-haired scribe with the stories of the week, look for a special announcement later in the program expanding White Plains Week and People to Be Heard availability around the world and the universe later in the program. And now, Jim, let's go to those headlines, the scary headlines.
Now, the scary headlines for October 30th, 2015, the day before Halloween.
I am scared.
Daylight savings time ends 2 a.m. Sunday morning. Set those clocks back. Republican presidential field presents disorganized message. Sales tax is up slightly. Anne Marie N. Carnaco, lone contender for council, points to downtown malaise, red light questions. The governor's Common Core Task Force holds first meeting with one-day notice. First speakers call for individual custom education, end to tests, let teachers fix their instruction. Dennis Morgan, nicknamed Strawberry, White Plains football great, dies. Bus transit plan gets $10 million, still short. They're still short by about $30 million. Historical Preservation Commission suggests 2 buildings, does not reveal complete list.
Yet, anyway.
Yet. Hudson Valley Pet Food Pantry Gala attracts 75, honors 5-year volunteer. White Plains Hospital urges you to donate blood.
Yes, and what better thing to donate on Halloween than blood? Right. Now, going to the Rolo Newsreel March of Time, the Halloween edition. And we want to remind you that yesterday, on Thursday, it was National Cat Day, and this is National Cat Month, reminded of you by the Spokescats, Midnight and Bella, who are promoting National Cat Month. And be kind to black cats, too. Black Cat Month. Now, let's go to the interesting debate this week. And in fact, there was rumors that we would have a new contender jumping into the fray. And that was, of course, our old pal Zachary, who was tossing his hat into the ring. But generally, all kidding aside, though, Jim, you watched the debate. I did not. And what did the presidential debate tell us? Well,
first of all, I thought I missed the opening part of the debate, but I thought the debate in general was, I don't know whether I'd call it disorganized, but it was very haphazard, I guess. They didn't seem to have a focus on questions that involved issues. Mm-hmm. One of the high points, and I thought that this was really made a point. They asked Chris Christie a question about fantasy football, and his response was, we have a $19 billion deficit, we have this, we have that, and you're asking about fantasy football?
Yes.
I think his point was really well taken. I think that Christie, on a number of points, comes out well. You know, he doesn't, why he's not garnering that in the polls, I don't know. Another thing, there was a question from the financial guy, Jim Cramer, with regard to punishment of executives, and this was also directed at Christie, punishment of executives for, I think it was the ignition switch problem,
The debacle.
and why nobody went behind bars for that. And Christie said that if he were there would have been people that went behind bars.
Yes. That was an interesting candidate to ask that question of, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did anybody gain any ground? Did
Well,
people
it
lose?
was interesting. I thought that Marco Rubio came across very well. He was challenged at one point by Jeb Bush for not going to congressional meetings as often as he should. And he responded to Bush by saying, the only reason you're bringing this up is because we're running against each other. And, but I think Rubio came across very well. I think a lot of what's wrong with these debates now is there are still too many candidates debating. Some of these guys should have the brains to drop out where their figures are really low. There may be some exceptions to that, but
You have to coalesce around the central figures that are really genuine contenders and have the genuine popularity.
they came out with a thing afterwards that said Trump was the big winner. He attacked, is it Governor Kasich?
Yes.
On the fact that he was, when Lehman Brothers went down, he was an important person in that company. And, you know, I think Trump made some good points, but they said that he, poll-wise, was the top person. But Rubio, I don't know whether I'm using the right terminology. They said he gained most in popularity after this debate.
Well,
So that was...
what is the strategy from here on out, you think? I mean, does Trump start to go back into attack mode to sort of consolidate? Because I think he wanted to not make any mistakes. Sitting on a lead, as they say.
I don't know. It looks like he's going to be there and probably is going to be the leader.
Well, he is certainly the most visible Republican candidate that could be run, because I'm not saying that's why they should nominate him, but it all depends on how he does in the primaries. Now, locally, and now we can show a little bit of our local candidates. There are very few. Benjamin Boykin running for county legislator, and Alfreda Williams running for county legislator. Now, what's wrong with that picture? There's nobody running against them. And then, going to the Common Council setup, this is from last week's League of Women Voters debate, is Anne Marie Carnarco on the left, Dennis Crowley and Nadine Hunt Robinson, and of course, Dolores Lacona. And the three candidates on the right are all incumbents, and Ms. Carnarco is the lone challenger. So that is the only real race White Plains has to worry about. And Assemblyman Buchwald is running unopposed too. I mean, what is going on with this?
Well, I will say this. I think, I don't know as much about Alfreda Williams as I do about Ben Boykin, but I think Ben Boykin and David Buchwald are very, very strong candidates. I think they're, I don't know if they could put up anybody that could really beat them. We had Ben on the show and not too long ago, and I was really impressed with him. I thought he did extremely well. And David Buchwald really gets into things. I mean, he's really
very energetic, and comes out on key issues somewhat ahead of everyone else. However, my question is, should we just, I mean, shouldn't there be some loyal opposition? I mean, even senators and congressmen who have been in for years get some sort of opposition.
Well, the Republican Party in White Plains and in Westchester, I think, is extremely weak. I mean,
to say the least.
They just, the organization is not really.
No one's participating. They, in fact, it's really a weakness. It's just so weak, and they don't even send people out to discuss issues in public hearings in White Plains that really matter, and that is irresponsible. If you're in politics and you're the opposition, you have to go in and speak out. If you're not really a politician. Now, speaking of good news, the sales tax was up slightly. Can we have that? Yes, here we are. It was up 3.7%, a very big gain in September for White Plains economically, and we were up 2.2% for the first quarter. This is really good news, but 2.2% for the first quarter, just a little bit ahead of inflation, but it's sort of rattling along. And the county was up 4.3% in the first 8 months, 4.3% last month, which was also good for them, but they're off only 1% in the first 8 months of the year. Now, Anne Marie Encarnaco was interviewed on People to Be Heard this week, and you can see that on YouTube at the present time. Just do a search on Anne Marie Encarnaco and People to Be Heard, Yahoo, and it'll come up. Now, the Ms. Encarnaco, I asked her what she thought about the downtown malaise that she spoke about. Here's what she said.
Being on Mamaroneck Avenue, I'm down in the city a lot. I go to a gym right above Iron Tomato on Mamaroneck Avenue, and it's really a little disappointing about how our city looks. The sidewalks are filthy. There's over 50 empty storefronts up and down Mamaroneck Avenue and Post Road. Yes, it's a really, and the whole thing is the parking situation. That's what keeps people away from the downtown. Putting the malls in and everything on the outside of towns doesn't provide the foot traffic to downtown that we want and need. Parking needs to be more than an hour. If you're going to dinner, going to lunch, going to the gym, it's an hour. So coming out, you're getting a $25 ticket. And I don't know if anybody knows, so I will alert you to this. There are now lines in front of your parking spaces, and you can't be over. You have to be within those lines, or you get another $25 ticket.
Right. It's a vicious little policy.
Yes. So these are the things, as a citizen, you're hurting us, the citizens, and you're keeping people away. Real estate, as far as real estate, it's hard to get people that are not from White Plains to come to White Plains.
Why is that?
Well, because they fear the parking situation and our schools, and
they actually tell you that? Clients that
yes, they don't want to shop. They'll go to a mall or go to a different town to shop and stuff. And this is why the downtown is hurting. What I'm concerned about is where's the money coming from? We're short policemen and firemen, and we have money for red light cameras. Why hire the right amount of policemen? if we're down men.
And depending on the deal the city cuts with the red light camera firm that installs them, we will have to pay them.
Right, why are we paying
for
outside
it.
services when
And
we
if
have...
we don't make quotas, if they sign that kind of a deal, we have to pay them more.
Yes, so it's not really about, it's about where the money's coming from, where's the money that they're gonna collect, gonna go to, and who's gonna service it, why are we paying outside sources?
And it would be nice if these were talked about, these issues were talked about in the open. Right. Yes, in the open, something that isn't done much in White Plains.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that there are several things that need to be pointed out and questions that need to be asked about the red light cameras. First of all, do they ticket emergency vehicles that go through the red lights? And does that count as, if they don't ticket them, they obviously are going to go through red lights at some point. If they don't count them, does that count towards the quota, or how does that work? And what happens if you are driving and you're in the way of an emergency vehicle, and to get out of the way you have to go through a red light? Sure. You get a ticket for that?
Do these machines think? That's the problem. I don't think they do.
The other thing is, any time you have a fine where there can be a huge number of violations, so to speak, the ability to fight it is very expensive, and they know that. In other words, like parking tickets, the parking ticket may be $25, but for you to take the time to go to court may be a few hours, and you really got to have money to do that. So they know, you say, oh, the heck with it, I'll just pay the fine.
Right.
And that's what they know about the red light thing, and I think that it's really more about making money than worrying about the law. And the other thing is, there are some places, intersections, where I still think they should have officers directing traffic.
Yes, we really miss the officer with the white gloves.
There was a great officer, I forget his name now, but he was one of the best traffic directors I've ever seen.
It was a trademark. He was a trademark of White Plains, and we miss him. We miss traffic direction, period. Now, let's go to the shocker of the week. And the shocker of the week was that the governor's Common Core Task Force held their first meeting. The meeting was actually announced the day before it was to be held on Thursday. It was held down at the College of New Rochelle, a beautiful campus, has great facilities, although this room was a little small for the crowd. Here's the crowd that showed up. And as you can see, it was pretty packed. The media was on force, and here's what it looked like as it got started. Let's see the tape. And there is the panel of speakers that was awaiting the panel coming on in there. Mr. Parsons, who heads the panel, is the man in the blue suit on the far left. And there they're coming on in, and this started about 20 minutes late because, what do you think? Traffic of some of the members getting to the place and parking. But then we got to the nitty-gritty, where the panelists presented to the task force. And the first panelists were, if we can have the next slide. Not the right one, but anyway, we'll take it in. That is Jamal Bowman, a principal of the Cornerstone Academy for Social Action in the Bronx, and he was really got a lot of applause from the very pro-teacher, parent audience. He proposed to remove teacher evaluations, administer state assessments created by teachers in 4th and 7th grade, and that would really be cutting back tests to twice during the whole 33-8 sequence, and then begin statewide focus and conversation about authentic curriculum instruction and formative assessment. And he believes in very, very intense preschool education, and also he believes in developing the individual and addressing education of the individual. Now let's see the next speaker, if we can have the next speaker. Judy Kelly, an English teacher from Sleepy Hollow High School, presented all the steps that the Sleepy Hollow district did to prepare for the Common Core, and it was really mind-boggling. It was about 5 minutes, but the slides were just intense, Jim, with what Sleepy Hollow did. However, the result last year for the Sleepy Hollow School District, only 31% passed the ELA assessment. And for all the effort that was shown on that screen, there is a disconnect. And then if we can go back to the previous slide, where we show Ms. Sturgis. Nope, next slide. Linda Sturgis, the SUNY Maritime College, which is an engineering college and supplies a huge number of engineers for the maritime industry, said, very interestingly enough, as we can have the first slide about freshman math, that only 57% of freshmen were 50% of freshmen were not calculus ready in 2010, 52% were not calculus ready in 2013, and now it's down a little, 43% in 2015, and she attributed that to the No Child Left Behind changes and the Regents changes. However, she did point out that the data we see over the past few years reflect No Child Left Behind changes, and she said work is needed to enable our students to enter college ready for the first college level course. And then we had a parent from the, from the Westchester County parent from Ossining, Lisa Rudley, who also is co-founder and executive director of New York State Allies for Publication. And she had a very blistering attack presentation on the Common Core. She felt that the tests have to be essentially eliminated. We have to go back to letting the teachers teach, and the Common Core must be replaced by the old New York standards. And then the final speaker was Robert Horan, from a superintendent from the Shoback School District, who said his teachers up in this small district, about 500 kids, had adopted the Common Core well, and again, very individual instruction. Now, unfortunately, as with Ossining, which did not pass, which only passed about 35% of their students, he only passed, let's see, if I get that absolutely right, 35% of the students. And only 23% of Ossining passed the ELA. So the point is, a lot of efforts, they are very earnest, and I take nothing away from the efforts that were made, but there is a disconnect in these tests. What is it about these tests that is wrong and is not bringing out good grades for these people who were judged to be prepared and at grade level? This is the question nobody wants to answer, or nobody knows how to answer, and that's what this task force really has to do. They have to find out, and I don't know what they do, but they have to commission somebody to analyze those tests and see what's wrong. And then moving along, there are going to be 10 more meetings that the task force is going to take care of. It's going to be held on Friday, November the 6th, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. around the state, and on Wednesday, November 18th, to 2 to 4 p.m., there's going to be another public session. Now, one thing I hope, before we leave this topic, is that they contact Elizabeth Phillips, who we interviewed on the People to Be Heard last year, her school down PS 232 in Brooklyn, well, they passed 74% of their children in ELA this year. In the test that nobody else can pass, it appears, you know? And so they should have to hear from her and find and compare notes. What are they doing there that others are not? Now, the Trans Center Task Force was named.
Well, here are the breakdown of the Trans Center Task Force. Residents are Justin Brash, Larry Sally, Mary Cavallero, Patty Cantu, Richard Payne, and William Cuddy. And this is Mayor Roach. Landowners and business people, Peter Mossbacher, who's a Senior Vice President of Community Development for Webster Bank, Robert White, CEO of RPW Group, Susan Fox, President and CEO of White Plains Hospital, Tim Jones, Managing Member of Robert Martin Company, William Cuddy, Executive Vice President of CBRE Brokerage Services, special interest and community groups. They've got Justin Brash here again, and they've got Larry Sally also again. Transportation, Richard Payne, cycling advocate, Peter Mossbacher, placemaking advocate, I don't know exactly what that is. Mary Cavallero, former chair of the White Plains Planning Board. And that's the
What do you
task
think,
force.
briefly, about the selection? Is it wide enough? Is it representative enough? Loaded question.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough transportation expertise represented. And stakeholders task force, it might be better to be somewhat larger. You know, and I don't know, does it say what the actual charge to the task force is? What they are actually...
Yes, well, they are charged with basically approving what they think is the best idea. Some notes. Dennis Morgan, a lifelong resident of White Plains, died last Sunday at the New York Giants game at the age of 63. He was a star, outstanding athlete at White Plains Senior High School, who played on the 1969 undefeated football team, and he was a great punt returner for the Dallas Cowboys. The Pet Food Pantry held a gala last week at the Women's Club of White Plains, and also awarded a fine award to Donna Russo of 5 years of continuous service to Hudson Valley Pet Food Pantry. 75 persons attended, and congratulations to the Pet Food Pantry on 5 years and helping. 5 years, they've given away 187,000 pounds of free food, kept 1,018 animals out of shelters, and currently feed about 300 families and pets. And John Bailey, Jim Benerofe, good night. White Plains Week.
Good night, Joe.
Presentation of White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com, in cooperation with Channel 76. Comments may be emailed to WPCNR@AOL.com. The copyrighted print White Plains Cityscape by Leonard Weber is used courtesy of the White Plains Presbyterian Church. For information on its availability, you may contact the church at 761-8585. The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented Fridays at 7:30 and again on Mondays at 7 p.m. here on Channel 76. For White Plains Week, this is Seth Benerofe speaking.